Well, bore da pawb, good morning again. And croeso I chi gyd, welcome all. We're going to be talking today about a digital recovery. First, I'm going to hand over to Melissa to talk through a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll hear about that.
So in terms of the plan for this session, so we're starting with Mary from Mid and North Powys Mind, and she'll be talking us through her digital story of kind of the things that their organisation have introduced due to COVID. Following that, we'll be handing over to Mair from WCVA, who will be talking about using digital tools for good governance. And then Lauren Swain from Localgiving will be kind of talking about online fundraising and particularly the Localgiving platform. Followed by Diane Reynolds from Powys County Council, who will be talking about Powys's digital strategy. And then finally, we have Ian Smith from Digital Communities Wales, who will be talking about digital inclusion. And then Flo and I will be talking a little around PAVO's digital support, and then we'll have our main Q&A session after that. So I'd like to hand over to Mary. Mary, in terms of your section, would you like the video first, or would you like to talk a little bit before that?
I'll talk a bit first, and then I'll ask you to put the screenshots on, if that's okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. So hello, everyone. My name is Mair Rigby, and I am the Development Manager at Mid and North Powys Mind. I've been asked to tell you all a little bit about our digital journey in response to the pandemic. So thank you, Flo and Melissa and PAVO, for inviting me to speak today. I think there's been some great digital innovation across third sector organisations in response to the pandemic. As a sector, I think one of our top strengths is that we are quick to adapt and we're not afraid to try new things. So if you can, cast your minds back to when lockdown first hit back in March, and there was that initial scramble to ensure everyone had the right IT equipment to be able to work from home. We were lucky, most of our team had mobile phones and laptops or took desktops home. And between us, we pretty much stripped the office of swivel chairs and laptop risers. Not everyone had internet, so we did get some Wi-Fi boxes up and running. And I remember back then purchasing equipment became very expensive and quite hard to get hold of as well. We were already using an internet-based system called Lamplight for our client records, thankfully, and for monitoring and evaluation. And we were also already using internet-based email, which most of us do these days, Gmail. And thanks to the fabulous technical skills of our administrator, Becca Oakley, we really took advantage of the Google package, which I'd like to show you some of now, if that's okay. So if you could show the first screenshot, Melissa, I'll just talk you through. Some of you will be very familiar with this, but I thought it's good just to have a look at how we found it. So if you're not familiar with this, a couple of things that we really like about using Gmail, on the right-hand side, by the side of my emails, you can see Mary's list. And that's a task list, and it's really good, that task list, we find. You can tick things off, very satisfying. You can drag and drop things to change the order or priority of things, and that will always pop up once you start it, when you go into your emails. Better than having bits of paper, which I was always doing beforehand. So I use that an awful lot. I think a lot of the team use that now. What has been really, really lovely, I think, has been Hangouts. So that's the little box that's popped up with a black top on my emails there. Thank you. And so what we did is we got all the staff team to join that. So you can 15 next to the little person sign there. And it's been really nice to help us feel connected during this time. People will pop in there, you know, good morning, how you doing? Or thank crunchy, it's Friday, or however you're feeling. Or if you've got a query, someone is struggling with this issue, you know, who's the best person to contact, any ideas? And it's just really helped with that connection. Staff wellbeing has been so important right now. So if you could show the next screenshot, Melissa. I just wanted to show you as well how we've been using the calendar system as an appointment booking system. It's something we did before the pandemic, and it works really well for booking one-to-one appointments for new people. So we'll just have a look at that. Okay, so we set up a new calendar in Google, one that was shared by our one-to-one workers, our admin staff and our managers, and you can see it's called One-to-One, and it allows people to look at and to edit it. So lovely, thank you. So you can see that our workers will put on when they're free and they have slots to be able to call new people. You can see slot available with Lizzie on the Thursday, slot available. So if someone calls up to our office and wants support, a new person, we can immediately go into the calendar. We can offer them choices of times and days, and we can offer them, tell them about what staff member will be calling, what time they'll be calling, and also give them the staff member's mobile number. And it's been a really good system to be able to cut out that possible waste step in the process of getting the worker to phone them back. And then there can be the difficulties of getting hold of people. Sometimes people don't want to answer their phones either, or pick up to unknown numbers. So that's worked really well. And as you can see, you just click on the slot available, the little pen symbol, and you can add in the person's name. We've put in their Fred blogs and just a made up number. And you can add in as well a bit of background information about the person, which is really helpful, of course, to that worker to be able to move forward, and the person, the client, not to have to repeat themselves as well. So that's worked really well. Thank you very much, Melissa. That's great. We also use Google Meet. We use that more for our internal meetings. It's their video conferencing platform. But I think most of us have found that Zoom, as we're using today, is a bit more user-friendly for the majority of people. So we'll use that for our training courses and our board meetings, which have moved from in-person to Zoom well. But one thing that's been incredibly popular of the digital stuff that we've been doing has been our Facebook Live videos, particularly at the start of lockdown, when it was all very new and scary. We wanted to put out some short positive wellbeing messages that people could watch anytime. And I want to show you a very short promotional video we put together about them that will just explain what they are far better than I can.
Hi, my name's Anthea and I'm one of the CBT practitioners who you'll see on Facebook Live, and I talk about basic CBT principles and techniques. In this video, we're going to tell you about our Facebook Live for Wellbeing videos.
We put out videos each week on subjects from relaxation, mindfulness and Tai Chi to creative writing, and how CBT can help you with your day-to-day problems.
These videos go out live on weekdays at 12:30. We hope to encourage people to get involved, stay connected and keep the focus on positive mental health during these challenging times.
Each video is 5 to 15 minutes long, and all of our videos can be viewed on Facebook at any time. Since lockdown, we've had 42.4k minutes of our content viewed, which is massive. We've had a great amount of positive feedback from participants, and we really look forward to more people taking part in these free services.
They can assist in finding achievable goals to help improve mental health.
They can inspire people to make a change, no matter how small.
They're a great way to share ideas and experiences.
They encourage people to talk about mental health.
The amount of views per video has increased as we've been doing them. We've built a following, I think, of viewers, and the feedback's been really encouraging. We've now had over 68,000 minutes of content watched across all the videos, and we're doing about 4 a week at the moment. In the last 28 days, our reach has been over 30,000 people, and those stats have blown us away, really. We've been really amazed by how popular they've been. Couldn't have wished for better, really. So I think they've been so popular partly because we've concentrated on what we're good at, mental health and wellbeing, and what people know us for and look to us for. And what's worked really well too is sharing those videos on town and community Facebook pages like Landlord Solutions. Becca's been instrumental in all of this, our administrator. It was her idea and she's been fabulous with getting us going with this. And the staff team have been fabulous too. It's not easy, is it, broadcasting over video conferencing platforms and feeling comfortable with that and seeing your face all the time. I think we've all struggled with that at the beginning, but they've really risen to the challenge and been fabulous. So thinking about the future post-pandemic, it's really hard to know exactly what that's going to look like. We'll definitely keep some of these new ways of working. I would expect us to more routine support to be delivered by phone, although there's no substitute for face-to-face support to build a relationship or when someone is in crisis. Although I do expect we'll be doing more home working. We'll certainly continue our Facebook Live broadcasts. And we will also do some of our courses as well. Will continue to be delivered over Zoom. I think that's because it's attracted people that couldn't physically get to our courses before, or were perhaps too anxious to try. But it does have some downsides. Video conferencing has put some people off. And we do find that people don't share as much over these sort of platforms. And they don't build those relationships with other participants as well. So I think it's going to be a blended delivery for us moving forward. But there's definitely a much bigger place for digital service delivery post-pandemic. So thank you for hearing our story.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything they would particularly like to ask Miri at all before we move on to Mair, who's going to be talking us through digital tools for good governance?
I just wondered, with the Facebook videos, are you using any special cameras for that, or are you just using smartphones?
We're just using our laptops or desktops with a camera on top if it's a desktop, so just the equipment that we're using for the office really. We are using BeLive, which is a quite cheap package that just enables us to have multiple people on the screen at the same time and to share screen quite effectively. So we do use that for like our CBT ones and our Thrive ones. But for the other videos, they're just a normal camera on the laptop.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
We have a question from Andrew Capel asking, are there any issues with GDPR when using Google Apps?
So in terms of that, when the new GDPR rules came into place, Google were one of the organisations that signed up to ensure that they did meet UK regulations within that. But we can pick that up a bit more towards the Q&A if there is a further discussion kind of around GDPR and digital working. Okay, so I'll hand over to Mair, who's just going to take us through digital tools for good governance.
Good morning, everyone. I'll just see if I can share my slides here. Great. So hello, so I'm Mair Rigby. I am the Governance and Safeguarding Manager at WCVA. I'm really pleased to be here with you in the digital space this morning. I wish I was with you in person because I do love Powys. It's one of my favourite places, so I wish I could come and see you. But it's still nice to be connecting with you online. And as I'm sure we're going to be talking about this morning, I think we've obviously been doing that a lot recently, and I think we're going to be doing a lot more of it in the future as well. So if you're not aware of WCVA, although I'm sure most of you are, we are the national membership body for voluntary organisations in Wales. Our purpose is to enable voluntary organisations to make a bigger difference together. And we work very closely in partnership with our CVC colleagues across Wales as part of Third Sector Support Wales. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more about digital platforms and tools on offer from Third Sector Support Wales later on in this session. So governance, well, we've all had to get to grips with digital governance very quickly, haven't we? Probably a bit more quickly than some of us were a quicker pace than some of us were probably moving at. So governance and the new normal. Well, this is an image, it's obviously a stock image that we use quite often to depict trustee and board meetings. It's a picture of a lot of nice people in a room around a board table, a classic kind of image of governance. So there we are. This is the representation of governance. So we have gone from this to this. Here is a more realistic representation from one of WCVA's recent board meetings, which our chief executive Ruth shared on Twitter recently. So here are some of our trustees at WCVA taking part in a nice Zoom board meeting. And this is, I think, what we are now having to get used to, all of us, lots of people on a screen doing their best to have a board meeting. Okay. Right, so what's happening right now with meetings and AGMs? So right at this point in time, meetings really have to be virtual unless there is a legal exception to the rules. So if by any chance you do think you should be meeting in person, then check the government regulations and get some advice, because as far as possible, we shouldn't, unless there really is a reason that is acceptable under the law at the moment. But the fact of the matter is the vast majority of our meetings are going to be virtual at the moment, and probably for quite some time to come, to make sure that we are all staying safe in the COVID-19 situation and reducing the risk of infection for ourselves and the people we work with. But what hasn't changed? Well, governance hasn't really changed. We're still expected to keep up the same standards of good governance for our organisations. So just to provide a few quick definitions of what we're talking about when we're talking about voluntary sector governance, we're talking about the systems and the processes that ensure the overall direction, effectiveness, supervision and accountability of our organisations. We talk about the processes by which our governing bodies, our trustees and our committees ensure that our organisations are effectively and properly run. We have to make sure that things are getting done. And of course, governance is concerned with leadership and direction. It's about ensuring that our organisations have clear and shared visions of our purpose, and that we know what we're aiming to achieve and we know how we're going about it. So that hasn't changed. We're still expected to do those things, but now we're expected to do them digitally. Okay, so what has been the impact on governance? Well, interestingly, overall, the feedback that we're getting, and that I know some of our legal partners are getting, has been mostly positive. Despite having to do a very sharp learning curve for all of us, what we are seeing generally, what's being reported, is much higher attendance at board meetings. Organisations reporting positive experiences of now feeling that they're more able to recruit trustees from a wider area, and far better attendance and engagement at AGMs and general meetings, which is really interesting. So AGMs, I know, are something that most of us really struggle to get people to attend. People aren't generally massively excited about AGMs. I mean, at WCVA, we're quite a large membership organisation and we really struggle with this. And we've got our AGM this week, and we have 147 people booked in to attend that, because it will be an online AGM. So that's very, very interesting, and possibly some good news for governance there, that perhaps we're moving in a direction that may actually be helpful in terms of in higher engagement, more people taking part in the decision making about our organisations, which is good news. But it's not all easy. We have to think about accessibility. Not everybody is online or linked in with digital to the same degree. Not everyone has the digital skills to engage. And of course, there may be barriers for people with particular impairments or situations. We have to think about the burden on the people who are running these organisations. I am thinking a lot about the chairs of charities and voluntary organisations. Running meetings online or by phone or a mixture of those things is stressful and quite challenging in a different way to meeting in person. We have to think about the right tool: Zoom, Teams, Skype, Google. Not all of these tools are free either. And of course, online AGMs, which I'm sure many of you are thinking about. These come with challenges. And I think what I want to say to you about AGMs is, although we are, I think, as WCVA and as CBCs, we're doing our best to advise organisations on this and to provide that general guidance. Really, there is no one size fits all for organisations with online AGMs, because all organisations are different and all governing documents are different. So what I would recommend is, if you're thinking about running your AGM online, do speak to your CVC for help with designing an approach that's going to work for your organisation, because it may be different. Well, it will be. It's going to be different for all organisations. And also it's going to depend on your membership as well. So, you know, your members might be quite digitally skilled, or they may not be at all. So, you know, you really are going to need to think about that. So like I said, you know, it's fine to look at general guidance, but do speak to your CVCs to make sure that you're designing an approach that's going to work best for your organisation. It will be quite individual. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the tools. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about these quite a lot today. Zoom, which we're on today, right now, it has a free option, but that only allows meetings up to 40 minutes, and the paid subscription starts at £11.99 per month. However, it is a very good platform, so if you have the funds, you may want to invest in that. It has also created a lot of resources for helping people to use it, so that's something there. Microsoft, oh sorry, what am I doing? There we are. Microsoft Teams. This is a free app if you have Microsoft, the Microsoft system. And again, they have training resources. Google Hangouts has been mentioned. Google is free. And if you're looking for advice, there's a website called Charity Digital, which has more extensive advice on using different digital tools. So you may want to have a look at that. Now, just some practical tips. I've sort of stolen these a little bit from the Association of Chairs, which has got a couple of really useful blog posts on this topic, which I've linked to on the slides there. So for online meetings, whether that is board meetings or AGMs or general meetings, don't forget about procedure. You still need to think about your notice, your quorum, your powers. So do check your governing document to make sure that your approach to online meetings is in line with your governing document. Choose the right tools and do think about security and privacy and all those things. Do help everyone to use it. So send links and information beforehand, and if necessary, links to the training videos that are available. Do test the technology before the meeting, especially important if it's an AGM. Do make sure you have a run through because you don't want things to go really wrong in those situations. Consider whether you can record the meeting. You may need, I mean, we're going to talk about, someone has already mentioned GDPR. We're going to have to talk about permissions and things. However, recording a meeting can provide advantages and certainly put a stop to those unpleasant arguments about what goes in the minutes. So you might want to think about that as an option. Do create clear ground rules, etiquette, muting speakers, videos on or off, how are people going to speak and get attention, if it's how are people going to vote or make decisions. So those are all things to think about. And just a few more practical tips. Do prepare. Some things will take longer online. Think about papers. Do you need to put more or less information in the papers now that you're going to be doing things online? Does everyone know how to use the technology? Do you need board only time? If your board does need board only time without staff there, I mean, obviously you could tell staff to join at a certain time, but also you could use most facilities have some kind of waiting room facility, which you could use. Do set ground rules. It's good to appoint a co-host if somebody's chairing to help them out. Breaks are really, really important. Online meetings are very tiring. I'm sure most of us are feeling that. And I know that, if I have a day of Zoom and Teams calls, I do feel completely exhausted afterwards. So do think about people's attention levels and what they can cope with and make sure that they are getting enough breaks. So the future, this little cartoon that I pulled off a stock image site, I was thinking, I think we've all become quite familiar with the little Zoom wave, and I think the Zoom wave is here to stay. So I think we better get used to it. I think there's one thing missing from this picture. I think he should have a cat there trying to get onto his laptop as he's trying to work, which is kind of missing. But I think the truth of the matter is, if we're talking about recovery in the future, it's very unlikely that people are going to want to return to an exclusively in-person approach. Expectations about that have changed, and we know that we can do it now, and we know that there are advantages. So I think from a governance perspective, do consider whether your governing document and other governance documents need to be updated to reflect this new reality. We're all being I think people are being quite flexible at the moment, but if your governing documents aren't quite in line with that, then do have a look at them and see whether you need to make changes to allow you to do things more digitally in future. You may want to look at things like board terms of reference. You may want to look at things like codes of conduct because they may be different in the digital world. So I would suggest that we start thinking about a hybrid approach to our governance that will continue to enable people to take part remotely. Because as I said, I do think that is going to be the new normal going forward. I don't think we're going to be going back to entirely face-to-face or in-person meetings in future. So that's what I would recommend thinking about. In terms of the future, one website I would recommend having a look at is an organisation called Catalyst. they provide, this is something I've only come across quite recently, but they provide lots of tips and tools and resources for non-profits and voluntary organisations around using different aspects of digital technology, and quite creative and interesting stuff on there to have a look at. As I said, I'm sure we're going to mention TSSW, but if you haven't already, do please sign up to our new online knowledge hub, which is entirely free to register. And we are over the next few weeks and months, we're going to be uploading a whole range of new digital resources that we've developed as the Sector Support Wales, courses and information sheets and things that will help you with moving forward into the new future that we're moving into. Thank you very much. And those are my contact details if anybody wants to get in touch.
Does anyone have any direct questions in terms of the presentation for Mair? I can see there's a couple in the comments. So someone's mentioned about Google only being free to a certain degree, and Google Workspace is what PAVO uses, and like Microsoft Teams, there's a charged license domain which offers a wider and better functionality. And there are degrees in terms of all the platforms.
I mean, the free offer is generally limited, isn't it, with most of them?
Andrew, we'll pick up on your comment at the end, because I think that'll be a discussion that the group as a whole might actually want to have separately in terms of that GDPR compliance. If not, we'll move on to Lauren Swain from Localgiving, who's going to talk to us about the platform and online fundraising.
Brilliant, thank you, Melissa. I'm just going to share my screen too. Fab. Okay, so yeah, I work for Localgiving, and I've been running their Wales programme for the last 4.5 years or so. So I'm going to speak to you about online fundraising, fully explain what that is and why it's really relevant at this point in time in particular. So just to introduce you to Localgiving first, so we are a not-for-profit. We are a UK-wide organisation that specifically works with small and medium-sized charities or community groups to explore online fundraising. All of our members get access to gift aid, match funds, grants. Donors can donate through the Welsh language, and we are essentially a large membership organisation, and we've specifically at this time been focusing on helping our members raise money in response to COVID-19. So by online fundraising, I mean any income that is raised through the internet. So it's essentially individual giving, but it can be done remotely, it can be given from wherever a person is based, and it can be promoted online as well, which is obviously really important in this current climate where we're not seeing people face to face. Even generally, the average online donation is double that of an offline donation. You know, people put their spare change in a donation bucket, but they always round up to the nearest pound, £5 when they're donating online. And it does equate to, this is before the pandemic, a quarter of donations that are given in the UK are given online. So it's really relevant as a source of income anyway, and even more so now as people are forced to digitalise everything they're doing as well. So over the last 4 years, I've worked with 350 organisations throughout Wales to specifically ensure that there are organisations across every county that are able to get support that they need if they want to start looking at this as an income stream. It's been a very loose criteria for groups that I can work with. Essentially, they just have to be not-for-profit themselves, they don't have to be a registered charity, and they need to have a bank account for donations to be transferred into. On the right here is an example of what a donation page looks like. So that's what everyone does at the start when they sign up to Localgiving. The first thing they need to do is create an online donation page. That has its own link. They can then share that with anyone that they want and direct people to it. They can link it to their website, they can share it on a Facebook page, and it brings people straight through to that donation process then, and they can donate or give monthly or whatever it is they want to do to support you then. Alongside that main donation page, you can also fundraise for specific things that you need. That could be a project, it could be equipment. It's really flexible in terms of helping you meet specific targets. You can also encourage your supporters to do fundraising challenges. They can raise whatever target they like, and again, that comes straight through to your bank account. So they're the different sorts of ways that individuals can support you through local giving online. As a member, you have full access to manage everything in your account. You can, see the donations coming through. You can thank donors. You can download reports. You have full access to everything. It's all GDPR compliant, and we can support you to fully use all the functions available there too. There is, in good timing, right at the start of the pandemic, we were working on an online fundraising guidebook anyway. We were actually doing that in partnership with PAVO. So it worked quite nicely that then at the start of the pandemic, we have this resource, which is an online resource anyway. And it's a guidebook that fully takes you through every step of online fundraising. Whether you're using local giving or not, you could use this guidebook. And it really helps you to think about, how each type of individual giving online might work for you, how you can promote that, different things that you can do to make that really successful for your organisation. The link to be able to download the guidebook is there online, but I can also provide a link for that if you want to get in touch at any point too. So in terms of the Wales programme, so as you can see, so there's members across all of the 22 counties. They've now raised well over £1 million through online donations, and we've supported them by running group training sessions, largely in partnership with the CVC network, and then also meeting every member for a one-to-one training session. Obviously, currently that support is online or over the phone, as they prefer at the moment. And we've really been seeing those organisations, really building their confidence with online fundraising and, succeeding in raising that as an ongoing form of income as well. One example of an organisation that has done really well with this sort of fundraising during the current pandemic, I would say that a lot of organisations who are fundraising at the moment, it's either been to survive as a whole, it's been to adapt existing projects to make them COVID friendly, or it's been to launch new projects that the network or community they'd normally be supporting, could really do with at this time. And honestly, like if you ask, people do give. So it's really been, really encouraging to see how much people have raised through the pandemic alone. This is a community organisation called ACE. They operate out of a small community centre in, quite a deprived community. And they essentially did a £3,000 online campaign, you might call it a crowdfunder, to be able to raise the income that they needed to support their community during COVID. They knew their community needed food parcels, financial crisis advice, mental health support. And so that's what they were fundraising to be able to give. They've been with Local Giving for 1.5 years. They signed up through the Wales programme, and through the income they've raised it for specific things like a defibrillator for their community, or fuel poverty support, or helping young people in their community to go to prom, things like that. And they've also invested in a part-time fundraising post now as a result, which is a great outcome. We want organisations to be able to go on to invest more in their fundraising as well. So obviously during the current pandemic, it's really important that you're still able to reach people. It's really important that they are able to support you, however works best for them, wherever they're based. And so it's really important to have an online presence, and really important to have the means for them to be able to donate to you online. And that's what we really focus on doing, particularly for those smaller organisations that don't have, huge members of staff, don't necessarily have a website with a donation function built in. All of those sorts of things are, problems that we can remove by working with organisations directly. We've also launched a volunteering service in the current pandemic, and that specifically focuses on helping organisations with tasks that are related to that online fundraising. So, for example, if they need some web design help to adapt their work, if they need some fundraising volunteers, if they need some digital marketing help, then we can look at helping them pair with people who are able to, put a bit of time into doing that. Myself and my colleagues are able to give training around different things, but if the volunteers or staff of our member organisations don't have, the time to actually put those things in place, then volunteers is an angle that they might want to look at there too. So in December, we're launching the 5th year of our Wales programme. That means that there's a brand new offer for Wales groups in just a couple of weeks, which is what I wanted to let you know about. So if online fundraising is something that you'd like to explore for the first time, or something you'd like further support with, then from the 1st of December, you can sign up to our next programme. All the information will be on our website, and I'll ask Melissa to share my contact details if you have any questions at all, and they're also on this slide. But essentially what the new programme will be is when you sign up, you'll get a free year of help with online fundraising. So there's no risk to trying to sign up. You know, you get fully supported, you get that training to help you get off the ground. And at this time, the focus is really around helping you to run your first online campaign or your first crowdfunder. So we'll work with you to raise a minimum of £2,000 towards whatever it is that you most need. And then once we've supported you to raise that first £1,500, you'll then unlock a £500 grant. So it's really incentivized for it to be as easy as possible for you to start off. If you put that time into raising that first little chunk of money, then you unlock £500, which you'll see really encouraging for donors to support you as well. And so everything there is in place to make you have as solid a start with online fundraising as possible. By the end of that campaign, then you should be, you know, really confident and able to keep hitting the ground running, be used to communicating with your network in that way, and then go from strength to strength, which is what we see. As soon as organisations start to fundraise online, then they go from strength to strength because they get more and more comfortable with asking for support in that way. So yeah, any questions at all, please do get in touch. But if you've got any questions now, then that'd be really great to know as well. Let me stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Thanks, Lauren. Someone said in terms of kind of asking supporters that they've been asked so many times there, so they need to find new ways of increasing supporter numbers. So can you just kind of say in terms of online fundraising as a whole, how that's possible?
Yeah, so one of the most important things is just to vary your ask throughout the year as well. You know, don't just be asking for donations, you know, every month. And there's one portion of the year where you're running an online campaign to raise money towards a specific target. There's another point of the year where you're encouraging people to do fundraisers for you. There's another point of the year where you're encouraging direct debit. So even by asking regularly, you can still change what you're asking for. And that's why things like fundraisers are important too, because there'll be people that will be willing to give you some time, you know, but won't necessarily have financial help, financial means to support you at this point. And then that's also why as an organisation, we do certain times of the year where we offer grants or match funding, or like I said, that £500 that you get through the Wales programme, because then it gives you an excuse to ask for support, and it varies your ask again throughout the year too. But yes, some organisations do have to grow their network as their first step. Some organisations, you know, have, you know, even a small, you know, really dedicated supporter base that they can start off with there as well.
Thanks, Lauren. So someone's asked if the pages can be bilingual.
Yeah, so you can write, essentially you can write anything that you want, so it can be bilingual anyway, but there's also a button that can then turn all of our bits into Welsh as well. Obviously you don't want to have written your page bilingually and it still says donate now at the top. So you can have a donation page in Welsh and a donation page in English, and they're just slight variations on the link to your donation page then. So if you're doing a Facebook post, you can share a link to your page in Welsh, a link to your page in English, and then the donor can choose what they prefer, and then go through that entire donation process in Welsh then, if that's what they choose.
I've got a couple of other questions, Lauren. So I'm going to give those, and if there's any others that come in, we can discuss those towards the end. So someone's asked about the vetting process for new joiners.
So if you're a registered charity, it's really quick to sign up because we can pull most of the information we need from the Charity Commission. If you're not a registered charity, then we ask for a governing document, so typically a constitution. We need evidence that your bank account is linked to your organisation, so that it's under your organisation name, so we're not transferring donations to anywhere else. And we also ask for the latest copy of your accounts. So essentially that's our vetting process for organisations that aren't registered charities as well.
And then finally, we've had a question about the cost to using the fundraising platform, or whether you take a percentage of the funds raised.
So historically, we did used to take a commission. Since about March time, we've been able to remove that, which is something we've been working towards for a long time. So there's no commission on donations. It's entirely free for that first year of membership. If you then want to continue with local giving beyond that first year, which is entirely your choice, it's then a one-off payment of £96 for the following year as well. So if by that point you've got £500 match funding, you've got access to gift aid that you haven't had before, you've accessed other bits of free money throughout the year, you know that paying that £96 is worth it to continue having that functionality. Then you can kind of give it a go without having paid anything to start with.
Thanks, Lauren. So if there are any other questions, particularly around kind of local giving and online fundraising, please pop them into the chat, and we'll come to them at the end. So I'm going to pass over now to Diane Reynolds, who is from Powys County Council, to talk about Powys's digital strategy.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks, Melissa. So my name's Diane Reynolds. I'm the head of digital services at Powys County Council. So that includes our ICT, customer services and information governance. As part of the role, I'm also responsible for the implementation of our Digital Powys Transformation Programme, which is in our Vision 2025. And it's that transformation programme that I'm just going to highlight with yourselves today, and kind of pick up on a few aspects of what we've been delivering and where we are. So I hope you find it interesting. So I'll just share my screen. I've also put in the chat link, the digital strategy link, so you can see that actually in English and Welsh, and it's a bit interactive. So please use that link, and everything we do towards the strategy is put up on those pages as well, so might just be one to keep an eye on for the future. So the digital strategy was launched December 2019, so we're just coming up to a year of having our strategy. We did go out to consultation to the public and all organisations in the summer beforehand to help inform what was in our strategy and how we take that forward. There's some key elements that obviously our strategy is designed to deliver our Vision 2025 for the council, to making sure that we support the economy, our health and care, learning and skills, and residents and communities. But we also felt when we developed the strategy, there was some core principles that we wanted to keep in mind in terms of whatever we were working on. These core principles would be underlying throughout our work. We wanted to be customer centered in everything we were doing. So if we were designing something new, it's from the customer's perspective always. We would look at digital first, but I suppose the word that's missing on this one for me is it's digital first, but not digital only. There's always got to be another aspect. Not everybody wants digital. I know we're really stuck with that at the moment, and we've heard lots about how we're all going digitally, but I think lots of people have referred to it doesn't work for everybody. So we have got to have other ways as well. In everything we do digitally, we need to be safe and secure. And that's a real strong element for us with whatever we're trying to do. And then always working with our partners. So whatever we're looking at how can we work more effectively with our partners and with people like yourselves. So there's 5 main work streams to our digital strategy. Looking at our workforce, we felt that if our workforce weren't strong digitally proficient, we couldn't help the rest of Powys in terms of residents or business transform if we weren't really well skilled ourselves. So we're looking at the workforce, we're looking at our core infrastructure, obviously, and how that supports our digital transformation, but also wider in terms of what is the infrastructure for Powys. Our customer-centered digital solutions, that's a top work stream. And then we've also got information excellence, how we use the information in Powys to help make more informed and better decisions. And then digital places, that's really looking at what can we do effectively on the ground in communities to help support digital as well. So if I just look at each of those aspects just in a little bit more detail, the customer-centered digital solutions, obviously one of those is looking at assistive technology in people's own homes and how that can support them better. How we can actually automate some of our processes within the organisation to free up support so that we can shift our funding to more online support services and those real services that are needed. And also trying to push everything we do through a My Powys account. So when you interact with the council, it's through one portal, and that you don't have all different websites and all different ways of interacting with the council that can get really, really confusing. We're trying to do it all through one portal. So that's our customer-centered digital solution. So at the moment, we've got a challenge to actually transform 93 of our processes to online, and we've done lots of things like you can report your bin has not been collected, you can order a green waste bin, you can pinpoint on a map where there might be some fly tipping, you can amend or create your direct debit for paying your council tax, and very many more, and there's lots more coming. So we've got a team working behind the scenes working on that, and what we've done is what you do online actually interacts with our back office systems, obviously with some validation checks, but it's automated the whole process, releasing our staff as well. So we're well on our journey. We're really pleased with where we're going, and obviously the journey we were on was a bit sidestepped during the first aspects of COVID, and we used the skills and technology we had there to actually provide solutions very quickly in response to some of the emergency actions. So one of those was actually setting up an interim track, trace, protect system because the national system wasn't ready, and we actually gave that for free to some other local authorities as well. We've set up ways that people can lodge their for business grants that the Welsh Government have said businesses can apply for. So we've had to rethink what we were doing and adjust our plan a bit, but we've used all of those skills and all of those tools to respond to the pandemic as well. The next one is our digital workforce. So we're looking at the core skills of all of our staff, and we're actually coming up with what we think is a really good profile and the core skills we want all of our staff to have so that they can help all of our communities around them that they interact with as well. And this is something that I would really like to share with you all once we come up with those core skills. And then once we set up the training, try and make that training available to everybody. So if it's online training, make it available. There might be bits you're interested in, might be bits you're not interested in, but whatever we invest in, I want to try and make that as collaborative as possible. So that's we have put that on hold during COVID just because everybody was focused really on business critical activity, but this one we've just started to pick up again now. Information excellence has been going for a while. So one of the key aspects that signed up to in our public service board, and I put a link in the chat box to our wellbeing information bank. So that was a joint wellbeing information bank through the public service board that has lots of facts and stats about Powys, and it's interactive. So you can look at how many people are aged 30 that live in Llanidloes, or you can actually get all the figures, stats and figures, and it's real easy to use and interactive, so much more easier than going to the Office National Statistics and getting lots of spreadsheets. It's all done and visualized, so it lays out in maps, etc., all free to use, and actually gives you the latest figures because it's all automatically linked back to the Office of National Statistics or Stats Wales, so they update automatically and they provide you the latest information from the council. So that's a really good aspect you can look at and a free tool for you to use. We also get lots of freedom of information requests, and what we're looking at doing is trying to automate those requests, but also to publish as much information as possible so that people don't have to write in a freedom of information request, because we've already given that out as open data. And we would encourage you all to take part in that as well. And if there's some data that you think would really help the Wellbeing Information Bank that you want to share, then we can look in at adding that as well to our Wellbeing for Powys. The digital infrastructure and systems, obviously that's looking at our core systems. Probably much more internal on this one, but actually we're also looking at how we can improve our schools infrastructure so that our future learners have access to the school, the systems and infrastructure that supports them to develop their skills, so that our future learners come out with all the skills and used to using all the tools that future businesses or ourselves might want from those learners in the future. So we're putting a significant investment of over £4 million into schools to actually increase the infrastructure so that they can use ICT much more within the school system, but actually that they get access to lots of different tools. And we've supported nearly 1,000 digitally excluded learners during COVID, where we actually got MiFi devices and reconfigured old laptops and got them out to digitally excluded learners of many families so they could get online. I'm not saying we got to everyone, but we did do loads and loads of work. And my team kind of drove all around the county in a frantic effort over 5 days trying to deliver laptops everywhere. So we were really pleased with that we could support the learners on that one. And then digital places, I suppose this is the hot topic, isn't it? Broadband connectivity. It's okay having all of these online digital tools, digital ways, digital fundraising, whatever you want to do. But if people can't get online, it just doesn't work for them, does it? If they can't get broadband access. And in a lot of our places, you can't even get mobile access to do something through a MiFi rather than a fixed broadband connection. So we've just recruited, and we've got a community broadband officer started just this Monday, and he will be connecting with you all, because I think you can really help us connect with communities and understand where there are gaps. And that community broadband officer is working to help facilitate combining together the funding that's available from Welsh Government and central government to help connect broadband in communities. So if communities can club together with their funding that they have access to as an individual household, if we can club those all together, we can actually put community broadband infrastructures in place. And that post is a key link between people on the ground in communities and with the providers, and try and getting providers interested in putting community broadband access in. We're also working closely with the Emergency Services Network, who are trying to create a massive network of emergency service network mobiles infrastructure. So at the moment, they're mapping all the areas in Powys where there isn't a mobile signal for the emergency services network. And then they're creating a new network with some with EE and some open source that will then have network infrastructure for mobiles for the whole of Powys. Then it will be complete coverage. So that's one that's really exciting that we're working with. So we're hoping that that broadband take up will really start to grow, as now we've got this officer in place, and we'll be coming out speaking to lots of different communities going forward. And the last one on digital places, so this is new, very hot, new off the press. So not even a lot of the council know about this. So you're the first ones really to know a lot about this technology. So Welsh Government have offered us some funding to put in LoRaWAN Internet of Things kind of gateway. So I'm going to try and explain this as simply as possible. So the Internet of Things is a free open source kind of connectivity that can collect data and then can give you access to that data and allow you to analyze it from many sensors that you can have for many uses. So for the sensors to be able to get that data up to the cloud, we need a whole suite of network points that can actually capture that data. Now, I know we're using technology-enabled care, and everybody's saying, why would you want to do this? Why put in something different? That we've got broadband, we have technology-enabled care, but the actual improvement with this is that actually for any sensor that you might want to use for anything, so it might want to, the sensors can do a huge range of things, but they might do something like monitor the temperature in somebody's house. With LoRaWAN technology, you don't need an internet connection. It can send that signal up to 5 kilometers line of sight, and it uses radio signals instead of microwave signals. So they're really low power. So because they use hardly any power, they can run on a tiny little battery for about 20 years. So that makes them much cheaper to produce. And once that signal goes through to a network point, then that network point feeds that information up into the cloud, and then you've got access to that data in the cloud and you can start analyzing it. So one example we were given when we were proposing us to take up this grant was that actually like a heat sensor in someone's house had realized that the heating in the house had gone so cold that a vulnerable person was at risk, and they actually went to the house and found the person in a really poorly state, and actually that saved their lives. So they are really useful sensors. So what we're trying to do is have a network of collection points, they're called gateways, set up across Powys, that then people can buy their own sensors, feed through those gateways and up to the cloud. So the gateways will be absolutely free of charge. So what we'll try and do is put these gateways across all of Powys to get as much connectivity as possible. And it might be that we can put a gateway in somewhere where traditionally you haven't got broadband or a mobile signal, but you could put a gateway in there to monitor and put technology-enabled care in place. So there are lots of use cases on LoRaWAN, but basically this gives you some idea. They can monitor logistics or your utilities. Smart cities use them. They do process control, and they can all do wearables as well, or environmental monitoring like floods, water levels, noise levels, all of those kind of things. And the sensors, like technology enabled care, are normally like hundreds of pounds, but these sensors you can get for like £20, £40, that kind of realm. So it could be that you could provide support to somebody in a home through a sensor for a very small amount, and actually then you have access to use that afterwards, all of that data, and be able to put in monitoring in people's homes, or you might want to monitor the temperature in a fridge, or lots of different aspects. So I think this is something that we will be working on with the Welsh Government over the coming year, and it's something that we'll be coming out and giving you lots more information on, and lots more support if people want to be able to use it. And obviously you'll have my email address if anybody wants to stay in touch about this afterwards as well. That's it from me, from my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And I'll try and stop sharing now.
Thanks, Anne. We've had a couple of questions come through. So the LoRaWAN system, is that going to be implemented throughout Wales?
I believe the same offer is being made to all local authorities from Welsh Government, yes, but it would be up to those local authorities to take up that offer, and whether because they're only offering kind of like the capital funds, they're not offering anything to support the rollout of that technology. So we have to invest ourselves in making sure that we can install all of those gateways and manage the whole project?
We've got technology and information is increasingly part of everyday life. However, I have many clients who find it all very confusing and sometimes are frightened of technology. What are Powys County Council doing to ensure those people don't become isolated and unable to access information from the council?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And accessibility is one of the strongest areas really that we're trying to get right in terms of digital power. So there's a few things we've done. One is that we went out with a survey asking people that have got accessibility issues how we could improve what we provide and what we do so that they can interact with us. We provided that kind of piece. It was a survey, but actually we also put some videos against it. So we did some British Sign Language videos, and we were also accepting people's videos back in British Sign Language so that they could tell us in their own words and in their own terminology what they thought and how we could improve. We've introduced British Sign Language videos as part of our anybody in the council that needs to interact with any of our customers can use British Sign Language videos or interpretation services in its broadest sense through the pandemic. So we've introduced that. We've also we're bringing in an omni-channel. Sorry, it's real bad, Tom. I feel like I'm being really geeky and throwing loads of words at you, and I don't mean to. So what omni-channel aims to do is to make contacting the council as accessible as possible in whatever format you want to call us in. And it also aims to be able to jump you between those channels if that's the right thing for you to do. So if you start off on the web and you might be talking to a chatbot, but you can't get the information you want to call an advisor, just by a click of a button on that chatbot, you're straight through to our customer advisory team. Or you might be sitting in the customer advisory team in a queue, and we'll tell you on that queue, you're going to be here for 20 minutes. Is this, do you want to see if you can get that answer on the web? And we'll help you send you a link to get through to the specific piece you're trying to talk to us about. So if you say you're trying to talk to us about a direct debit, we'll send you to the direct debit pages. We're also doing so you can text message us as well. So, and also voice to text messaging. So I think there is a service, I forget the name of it, is it like the relay text messaging service? So you can speak, text message is created, that comes into us, we text back, and then that text message is read out to you as well. So we have started introducing lots of accessibility pieces, and we have gone out to ask, what have we got wrong? What are we still missing to our communities? And we've had all the results back in, we haven't analysed them yet. And then finally, on accessibility, one of the biggest barriers, isn't it, is, yes, have you got broadband? The second biggest barrier is, can people use the technology? And it's mostly within our older people. So I have been looking at, myself, I have been doing a research project, looking at research around what are the barriers for our older people getting online and connecting with what they need to do, especially in the current environment. And I've produced some data collection surveys. I think they came out to all of you as voluntary organisations to have your say in that survey as well. And they went out, we did lots on social media and lots of trying to promote locally. It's not going to be as good as it would have been, because obviously, if we hadn't been in pandemic, we would have gone out and done a lot more on the ground, trying to connect more. But we did try and promote it as much as possible. And I've also done lots of wider literature reviews as well around what are those barriers to digital. I can say at the moment, I haven't analysed all the data, and that will be coming out. And when it's published, it will be on the Digital Powys website, which I've put the link up for. So you might all find that interesting. But one of the main barriers that's coming through at the moment is actually people can get online, but they need to feel very supported, and they like to do stuff in the same platform in the same way. And I think that's something for us all to take online, isn't it? Take on board, because we've talked today, haven't we, about using Teams, using Google Meet, about using Zoom, but actually for our clients, they want the same kind of tools, the same kind of, they need the same way of accessing information. And whilst it's not easy, it's a challenge, isn't it, for us all to look at, and how we can actually collaborate much better and closer in the future. Thanks, Diane. And then, so yeah, any other questions that come through, we'll pick those up at the end. But I'm just aware of time, and that Ian has been waiting very patiently to deliver his presentation on digital inclusion. So I'll hand over to Ian from Digital Communities Wales to go through that with you.
So I am the Digital Inclusion Advisor covering Powys for the Welsh Government funded programme Digital Communities Wales. Now, I'll talk a bit more about Digital Communities Wales and the support we offer in a minute. But first of all, just to kind of look at digital exclusion or inclusion, as was just said about how people can get to use the technology that we've just talked about this morning. So digital inclusion is really about making sure people have the opportunity and capability to use those technologies, and that kind of comes down to the challenges can be grouped to access, and Diane talked about the actual kind of connectivity. So how do people actually go online and connect to the internet? And Digital Communities Wales doesn't really do much around that, the infrastructure and stuff like that. We look at the skills, so whether people are able to use the internet and technology, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. But also we look at the motivation. Why is using the internet a good thing? People may have done, managed without it for quite a while. So you have to kind of find out what might interest them on the internet, kind of a hook, if you like. And we've done some work in care homes, and if you can find someone's interest, you can get them involved, they will then kind of pick up on it. And I think it's already been mentioned about people's fear of being online. They see things around identity theft and things like that. So all our work and training includes kind of how to be safe online, which we know is an important challenge. So why is it important? Well, as I said, we tend to use the internet every day. We wouldn't be able to be here today participating in this without digital access and skills. So it's always been important over the last few years, but not more so in the last 6 months because of COVID, and lots of people are now learning how to use digital access and digital tools, and deliver their services digitally. So that's kind of what we help with support. So without digital access, then there are some outcomes, and that's kind of poorer health outcomes, increased kind of loneliness and social isolation, especially at the moment. So giving people the skills and the knowledge and the confidence in order to use the internet and other digital tools, it allows people to kind of counteract some of these. And one of the reasons why it's most important is the people who are most in need of maybe health and care services are probably the least likely to be online. So it's already those that are disadvantaged, be it through age, disability, income, are the ones who are already missing out on other things. It's further widening that social inequality gap. So digital inclusion is very important in this day and age. So what sort of extent is exclusion? Well, the figures on the face of it look reasonable. 88% across Wales have internet access at home. That drops slightly within Powys, but not hugely. And 90% personally use the internet either at home or work. And those figures look good, but until you start breaking it down, if you look more closely, it'll probably be no surprise that if you start looking at ages, then younger people tend to be more confident and use the internet more. So such as like the 90% who use the internet, when you look at people over 75, that drops down to 52%. So if you're working with that target group of people, you may need to think about how you deliver your services digitally. And what are the digital skills? So 84% had 3 or more of the necessary digital skills. So what are those digital skills? Well, the UK government identified 5 areas which is important in digital skills. Communicating, so that could be video chat over Skype and Zoom, but also written, so email, instant messages, online forums, social media, all those sort of things, those methods of communicating online. As I said, those have become much more important over the last 6 months, and people are using them very effectively to the best of their ability. Handling information and content, so lots of information there. How do we know what's true and correct? How do we know it's a kind of bona fide website? And that, that's especially important for kind of health research and local information. How do you know it's good information? Transacting, more and more we are doing stuff online that involves finance. Now that's not necessarily just online banking or shopping, but it's also about price comparisons for utilities or insurance. I think some research showed that if for an average household, if you're not online, you will be kind of down about £500. That's what you're missing out on online, because you're not allowed to, you're unable to compare prices for things. You're unable to shop around. So there are some financial benefits to being online. Problem solving, it's a great place to go to find out answers to your issues or problems. You can get advice, you can get support, as many of you probably are already doing. So it's quite important. Again, people need to know where to look, how to access those sort of things. So a very important source of problem solving. And as I mentioned before, being safe and legal. Some people are frightened of identity theft, of bogus emails. So all our training includes how to recognize some of those things, how to develop a strong password, things like that. So we kind of make sure we give that sort of information, how to be secure online. And then those are the 5 areas for digital skills, but underpinning all of those are what's called some foundation skills. And that's, think about people who have never used the internet or a device. How do you turn it on? How do you connect it to the internet? How do you set up an account so that you can access some of these services? So it's those sort of things that we try and kind of instill, and we've not got we have no magic wand for how to do that without sitting down with someone and showing them a tablet and how to turn it on and things like that, which has become very difficult in the last 6 months. We used to do sessions in care homes, things like that. Obviously we're unable to do that, and we're trying to do that through a volunteer program called Digital Companions, which I'll talk about in a minute. So digital communities as well. So, as I said, we're Welsh funded, delivered by the Wales Cooperative Centre, and they employ digital inclusion advisors to cover the whole of Wales. So my patch is Powys, and I have colleagues covering the other counties. We provide digital inclusion support to organisations. So we help organisations, we train frontline staff and volunteers. We don't work with your clients or your users. We provide training and support to enable your staff and volunteers to support your clients or users. And this enables them to improve their digital skills and their confidence. And because we're funded by the Welsh Government, then all of our services are free of charge. So the support we offer, we can work with organisations. So I'm happy to work with any organisation in Paris to see how you can develop your digital services, what you might need, and what we can offer. So we offer a range of training, all online now via Zoom or Teams, and that includes kind of what is digital exclusion? Why does it matter? Some of the things I've already talked about. We look at particular websites and apps. So if you're working with a group who have particular health needs, we can look at kind of health and well-being apps, so you can then promote those to your clients. We run sessions on digital devices, so tablets, smart speakers like Echoes and Alexas, so how people can use them, get the best out of them. Because we're training people to help other people, it's not all about the technology and the actual stuff that's on the internet. It's about how do you communicate someone? What skills do you need to in order to get that person who may have never used a tablet before to start using it, to feel comfortable with it? So that patience, that enthusiasm, those sort of skills we also kind of include in our training, so that frontline staff can help their clients. And as I mentioned, our training always includes the online safety thing, so fraud, cyberbullying, those sort of things, fake news, those sort of issues we discuss within our training. We have a certain amount of digital equipment, so we have some tablets like iPads and some Android tablets. We have smart speakers, and we have some virtual reality headsets that organisations can borrow from us to try with their clients. If they've got a particular project they want to try, they can borrow stuff from us. We haven't got huge amounts, but we can loan it out for 3 to 6 months for you to try out. And if it works, then you can look for funding to buy your own and such like that, things like that. We do help organisations develop their volunteers digitally. One of my colleagues is a volunteer coordinator who will work with organisations around what skills their volunteers need to support your clients, how to help them enhance their digital skills. And we also run some volunteering programs ourselves. We have 3 programs. We have Digital Heroes, which looks at getting children and young people from schools or youth clubs skilled up to be able to pass on their knowledge to people. So again, pre-COVID, we had groups of schools running sessions in a care home, or maybe running a drop-in session in a library. So we have some examples of those, again, becoming more difficult at this current time. We have Digital Champions, which is a similar thing to Digital Heroes, but for adults. So again, someone may say, I have some digital skills, I'm willing to pass them on, and then work with people in the local community, maybe as a drop-in or whatever. But again, pretty more difficult at this time. One of our programs, which we call Digital Companions, which I think is something we'll be promoting in the next few months, is if you know someone who may need support with digital skills and you have some already, so it might be a family member, it might be a carer, already someone who has contact, can then pass their knowledge on and support that person to use digital tools. And that's called Digital Companions. So it's about training that person up to be able to pass on those skills and support that person to enable them to get online. So that's seen as a very useful one in this current climate, because they already know the person and they may already be having some contact with them. Other things we've looked at in supporting people is showing them through a window and things like that. So we looked at all sorts of ways, but as I said, we still have no magic solution to how you support someone who has very little digital knowledge. So we also work with organisations around partnerships. So we put people in touch with each other. If someone's running something that someone else says, oh, we'd like to do that, we kind of put people together. As I say, we can, because my colleagues and I cover Wales, we can put people in touch with other areas to say, this is running very successfully over there, would you like to try it here, whatever. So we can work with those in partnerships. And then we also promote a digital inclusion charter. So you can sign up to the Welsh Digital Inclusion Charter, up to the 6 charter principles, which kind of provides evidence that your organisation is committed to working to alleviate digital exclusion, and getting the charter mark is kind of acknowledgement of that work that you're trying to do. So So those are the sorts of ways we can support organisations. I say we don't train your end users, but we'll train your frontline staff to support your clients or your users. And I'm happy to chat about that with anyone outside of this workshop, if you like. So thank you for that. That's my contact email, and I'm happy to take questions at in the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Obviously, the main part of our session was until 11:30. So we're going to have just a quick session from Flo and myself just around PAVO support. And then we're going to keep the Zoom call open until 12, so that if you do want to stay and ask questions to particular people, want to network or anything like that, please feel free to do so. And if you want to go get a drink, go to the loo or whatever, again, please feel free to do that within that time. So Flo and I should only be about 5 minutes, and then we have a very quick poll, and then we'll have the network discussion. So Flo, I'll hand over to you and I'll just share the screen.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. I just wanted to take you quickly through my and Melissa's roles here at PAVO, because we didn't really introduce ourselves properly at the beginning. So as I said, I'm Flo and I'm the Digital Support Officer at PAVO. My project is funded by Swain until July next year to specifically look at what the third sector in Powys needs in the way of digital support. And Melissa is a county development officer, so she also offers the support on other things like funding and governance, but she has a specific focus on digital. So I'm going to just take you through very quickly what the support that we can offer looks like, but also at the same time, I'd really like to ask you all what support would be useful to you, because as I say, it's a 1 year post my digital support post, so I really need to sort of get going quickly and be very useful and concentrate on what you actually need. So any ideas you can offer about that, please just put them on the chat or contact us afterwards with them. So we can offer you very direct support. Of course, you can email or call us anytime with any questions you have, particularly around, what's been discussed today. If you need any support setting up a digital meeting, or, you want us to put you in touch with Localgiving or Ian or anything, do just get in touch. Of course, hopefully you all know you can contact PAVO at any time for other advice as well if you need anything around funding, volunteering. So that's part of that offer. But we're also starting to set up a area on our website where we're trying to gather together resources that will be useful to you developing your digital skills or new digital services or anything. So my first question to you is really, what would you like to see here? What would be most useful in terms of tools or links that you might struggle to find? We are also offering training. Of course, PAVO, like everybody, have had to change the way we offer things. So at the moment, we're not really offering in-person training. It's all online, and we're currently figuring out our program for the next few months. So this is a really good opportunity. If you have any ideas about what training you would find useful, please do let us know, and we'll see what we can put on. I've put some sort of ideas around there about things that we've done in the past and we could do again. But any particular skills or anything you're unsure about, please, we very much welcome suggestions for training that we could deliver over the coming months. We're also looking to set up a digital mentoring program. So that's so we've already recruited a couple of volunteers, and we're looking for some more who could work directly with you to develop something in particular. If it's maybe it's your social media presence that you want to sort of set up, but you're not quite sure where to start, we could find a volunteer who's quite social media savvy to come and sort of work with you. That could be for a few weeks or a few months, depending on what you need. So I'd also really like to know, what you think you know, a volunteer mentor could really help you with, if you've got any ideas about that. And we also plan to start well, I've grandly called it the Digital Powys Network, but essentially a network to connect everybody, all of us in the third sector who are trying to work on digital development, you know, at any stage, whether you're just getting started or you've got expertise that you can share with others. I think, you know, Mary and Mid Powys Mine are a perfect example of an organisation who just like picked up and ran with digital development at this time, and you know, have a lot to share. So I'd really like to sort of enable more sort of sharing of information like that, through whether that's through more online meetings like this, or a sort of or you know, email network. And if there's anybody you'd particularly like to hear from, then I would really like to be interested in hearing that too. So yeah, drop me a line or put your ideas in the chat here.
And then finally, within this, we just wanted to just make you aware of the Third Sector Support Wales platforms that we have. So InfoEngine, if you're not registered on InfoEngine already, PAVO can support you with that to register your organisation and your services, so that individuals can go onto our online direct and find that information and be able to contact you that way. We have Funding Wales, which has lots of funding information on it, and PAVO are able to create funding searches for specific criteria. So if you need any kind of funding support, Funding Wales would be a platform that can help with that. Then we have Volunteering Wales, which is for volunteering opportunities across Wales, and you can add on your opportunities, and PAVO can support, and we have volunteer bureaus across the county and can support you with putting on those volunteering opportunities and recruiting volunteers for you. And as Mair mentioned earlier, we've recently launched the Knowledge Hub, which is a place to kind of connect. There's lots of resources on that, training resources and other things there. So it's worth going to have a look at that. We will have all the information available on a Padlet that we've created, and we'll circulate the link afterwards. So that's got all of those platforms, the presentations that have been delivered today, and some other information as well, and that will be live for a period of time after the session. And then those are our contact details. And then just some kind of information that if you haven't already booked onto our AGM, that is this Friday, and the link we have within the Padlet will allow you to click over and join that. We have a Meet the Funder session planned with the National Lottery Community Fund on the 2nd of December. So they're particularly looking at their Supporting Great Ideas Fund. So if you want to come along to that, it's free to attend, and you can ask any questions around that fund. And then just a kind of reminder about that we do offer bespoke training as well. So if there is a bespoke training session that you or your organisation would like, please let us know.
There's a question actually in the chat. Maybe, I don't know if it's for Diane or Ian really, but it was from somebody who said they've been approached by parents who need digital skills. You know, their children have been provided with equipment to do the schoolwork, but the parent themselves is unable to support them. So does anybody know of any support for parents who need upskilling?
We could work with the school either to support the parents themselves, or even, as I mentioned, the digital heroes, we could train the children to support their own parents. That's one way we could look at it.
Hi, I have a question.
Right.
As a relatively dispersed trustee board, being, you know, Powys based, we did an audit of the IT equipment that our charity trustees had, and found that it was so varied and so varied in quality and also in platform. Is there a way of that you know about of getting funding to try and coordinate that in some sort of way?
I think we don't have a huge amount of access to funding to support organisations, though we would work with you around looking at what sources there might be, as I would think PAVO could as well, to look at where you might find some funding in order to do that. I think in the current situation, I think it is quite important that as an organisation you are able to link together digitally and provide good digital services. So it would be seen as a good reason to apply for funding, I think.
I can think of one organisation that I've worked with who I think recently got funding for new equipment, and I'm sorry, I have no idea where it was from, but if Ian, you wanted to drop us an email to PAVO's general email, we could raise that as an inquiry and try and find out for you. And of course there is the Funding Wales platform as well, can help you find funding for specific things.
Ian, with you coming along to the Meet the Funder as well, particularly to ask the lottery in terms of their Supporting Great Ideas fund, what potentially can be funded within that.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Does anyone else have any other questions at all?
Can I ask a question then, if nobody's got any? I just want to repeat one of my questions that I asked just now, is in that what training would everybody like? Because yeah, it's on my mind at the moment, and as I said, we are planning our sessions for the next few months, so it'd be really useful if anybody's got any idea of something.
So I've been dashing in and out of this meeting and had a mask on at some time because the district nurses here as well. So perhaps I haven't heard all the conversations of what's been discussed, but for people to actually use the internet, assuming that they can get the broadband, you also need the actual hardware or some sort of equipment to be able to use it. And if it's not affordable, I know the schools have got a big campaign to refurbish and upgrade, and then people to use it, understandably. But what about for organisations and the public in general? Because people might not be in part of an organisation, don't want to be for various reasons, but they also want information that they can chat to others.
Shall I come in on that one?
Yeah, I'm just asking what is the routine to actually get the hardware for people to assume?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points, and this one for me is, first of all, in the library service, we are trying to open up libraries so people can go in and access equipment that was available before, and we're trying to do that as safe and securely as possible. We've also been given a grant, so we're working on at the moment for people to be able to loan equipment and be able to take it home. And this is to try and help people become familiar with the technology before they possibly might buy something, and to give them that trial basis. So the equipment would come with a connectivity built into mobile as well. So I think we're trying to do it for the next year, so we can help people get online that might be excluded at the moment, and just give them that trial piece, along with a bit of support as much as possible as well to use the equipment. But like we've discussed before, it's really hard in that support side, isn't it? Because you can't actually sit with somebody and all of that. I don't actually know of any funding sources for people to get equipment, but so I'll leave that to our voluntary partners to hopefully answer.
In terms of that funding aspect, I mean, Awards for All for organisations offers up to £10,000 you can apply for there, and they are quite kind of flexible in terms of what people can apply for, because they want to be able to give the purpose of the fund to enable kind of any organisation to access some small amount of funding in order to improve what they do, or reach a wider community. So in terms of that, PAVO can help, and when we can kind of do a funding search for you that's for organisations, or chat with you in terms of engaging with organisations for that support.
Thank you.
I'd just also like to add on to the library's information that we have a partner called Good Things Foundation, and they run an online centres network, and all the libraries in Paris are signed up to that network, so they are online learning centres, and you can access training through them. Once they're open and you're able to visit and use their computers, you can access lots of training on how to upskill digitally at the library.
Yeah, a lot of people don't wish to go out though, even now. So that's what I am.
I appreciate that, but they are looking at how they can help people access in a safe way. And I know that may be a little while, but yeah, I can understand people wanting their own devices, certainly.
Yeah, because the limited opening hours, some people might want to chat to their friends at 8 o'clock at night, for argument's sake, you know.
Yeah.
Up then, especially if you're isolated and lonely. Some of the organisations that I'm involved with, where I've asked for an introduction of writing letters to others that haven't got that access at the present time. So while they're waiting to either get the equipment or get that ability, then they can at least correspond. It's better sometimes than just on the phone. So because it's more of a personal thing, a letter. I know it's going backwards, but some people still want that. But it's just as an interim measure to stop this loneliness.
If it helps people feel less isolated, then yes, I think going back to pen and paper is not necessarily a bad thing.
No. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? I'm just going to, in the chat, I've just dropped the link to the Padlet that we've created, which is basically a website that allows you to kind of put all the information on in like a grid view, so you can see the presentations, the videos and other things that have been shared today. We will be updating that with information, and it will be live for a period of time. So please go to that, and we will share it with everyone by email as well. Okay, so if there isn't any other questions, we'll just give a minute in case anyone wants to put anything in the chat, but if not, we'll draw the meeting to a close. But if there is anything that you do think of afterwards, please feel free to kind of email us, and we'll share contact details with you all, so you can contact people directly.
Can I just say thank you to all of our speakers very quickly as well. It was really interesting for me as well.
Yes, I think for a few of you as well. And it's just particularly in terms of from a Paris perspective, seeing kind of all the support that is there, and just matching that up to people, I think will be really useful. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. I'll end the meeting for everyone. The session was recorded, so we will be sharing the recording as well at a later date. Thank you.